If you've ever been to a local park before, you've probably seen one of these, a seesaw. If you've ever seen one of them, you probably know a little bit about how it works. The more you imbalance a seesaw and the more it goes up and down, the more fun it is to sit on, and it's the reason why kids love to play on it at the park. Now, if we look at our balance seesaw here, with absolutely no force and no movement at all, we can see how this is a pretty balanced seesaw. However, it wouldn't be any fun to sit on. Ask our person up here and they even tell us, this is a bit boring. But if we begin to imbalance our seesaw, if we begin to add a little more variety to it and make it more exciting, we can see how our person then later tells us, wow, this is a bit more fun and a bit more exciting. If we draw a parallel between a seesaw and life, we can see how a little bit of excitement, a little bit of variety is necessary to have fun in our lives. It's up to us to have a bit of imbalance and a little bit of uncertainty in our lives, to add that flavor, to add that excitement, so that we aren't always bored and stuck doing the same things. I maybe have never met any of you here in this audience before. I mean, who knows what everyone's thinking under their masks? Maybe you over there might be rolling your eyes at me, waiting for me to finish already. Or maybe you over there might be might be thinking in your brain that when is she going to be over? Coming up here with all of these anxieties to think about as I prepare to give my speech, I began to wonder how if I never decided to take this opportunity that was given to me, or if I decided to never really try something new and step out of my comfort zone, I wouldn't be up here speaking today. Though giving this speech might be what one may consider an imbalance, it wasn't something I was necessarily used to, and it wasn't something that was necessarily a part of my daily routine. I decided to take up a challenge, and as in return, I gained a new skill set, and I gained a new opportunity. While imbalances might be something that we choose to shun, might be something that we don't necessarily appreciate in our lives, we have a lot to learn from them, and we have a lot that we might not necessarily see up front. If we compare imbalances to a main goal that several people have in their lives of maintaining a positive work-life balance, we can see how always maintaining a perfect balance is not something that we might necessarily be able to achieve. While maintaining a positive work-life balance is a goal that several people have, I learned the hard way that we might not necessarily be able to balance every single moment of every single day, and that was okay. As I first entered high school, I knew that I would be faced with several more challenges compared to before. As I first entered high school, I realized that I would have more homework, more extra activities to worry about, and more commitments. And as a result, I decided to start planning every moment of my day for the first month of freshman year, down to the minute, thinking about all of the different things I wanted to fit into one day, just to maintain a perfect balance between my personal life and my school life. However, after 1 month of this, I realized that this wasn't necessarily efficient. It wasn't necessarily something that was really plausible. And I realized that I couldn't always predict the imbalances that would be thrown my way. Sometimes life throws us curveballs of things we might not expect. Some days I might have immense amounts of math homework, and some days I might have less homework or more of a free day. However, I learned that instead of trying to always have a perfect balance, it was more about trying to balance with the things I did have. It was more about trying to make sure that every day I felt mentally stable, and I felt that I was able to tackle each day with perseverance, and I was able to tackle each day with the strength that I needed to complete my activities. If we look at studies from the National Library of Medicine, we can see how monotony paired with alertness is not necessarily the best combination for us. Immense amounts of monotony paired with alertness in our lives can lead to increased amounts of neuroendocrine activity, which is, in other words, increased amounts of hormones put into our bloodstream, as well as, if paired with too much alertness, can be a combination that could lead to stress in our lives. While the main objective of maintaining a balance in our lives is to make sure that we are more stress-free, if we pair too much monotony, and if we pair too much of alertness with this, it can lead to more stress and rather have an opposite effect. This is why it is so important to have some sort of imbalance in our lives. An imbalance that allows us to see things differently, that allows us to have more variety, and allows us to concentrate on different things in our lives. If we drew an analogy to food here, we can see how imbalance and variety really does make a difference in our lives. If I give you an option to have a snack today, and I gave you two options, either being vegetables, as shown on the screen up here, which you might eat every day, or if I gave you an option of junk food, which is maybe something that you don't necessarily eat every day. If we ignored the health factor, what do you think most people are more likely to choose? If we ignore the health factor, something we might enjoy more rather would be junk food. However, if we ate something as unhealthy as junk food every single day of our lives, we would begin to value it less. And rather than it serving as an imbalance that brings variety into our lives, it would start becoming something that was a part of our daily routine and that we wouldn't value as much. But as much as I tell you to accept imbalances and learn from all of them, it is also vital to realize that we might not always be able to appreciate every imbalance in the way that we want to. COVID-19 was no exception. As COVID-19 was first thrown our way in March of 2020, we were all shocked. No one had any idea what was going on. It wasn't something that anyone had predicted, and it was something that threw us all off guard. However, despite it being such a major imbalance in our lives, we decided to begin to learn to accept the fact that something so big had hit us and learn to adapt to it. We began to realize that we had so many advancements, such as technology and computers and other fields of technology, such as Zoom. And we learned to use these technologies that we as a human race had created in order to make sure that we could stay connected in a time where most of us had to stay apart. Despite COVID-19 being something so devastating to us, with so many deaths and so many losses, COVID-19 was also a way for us to harness the power that technology had. It was a way for us to realize what the true capabilities of what we could really do. So if I come back to our topic of imbalance today, we can see how maintaining a balance might not necessarily always be our main priorities. Instead, if we are thrown curveballs in our lives, or if we are given the opportunity to experience an imbalance, we should rather embrace it rather than push it away. We saw how important it was to learn from our imbalances, and we also realized how imbalances aren't necessarily always bad. They're just another learning experience for us. So instead of always trying to get rid of these imbalances, it's important to learn to adapt to them and rather find our own balance within, because it is always about making sure we are balanced, not necessarily about being balanced overall. Thank you.